Hey everybody, what's up? It's Stacey Morgenstern, co-founder of the Health Coach Institute and creator of the Become a Health Coach training. Good morning. Welcome to Real Talk. In this episode of Real Talk, we're going to talk about the role of empathy for the coach, why it's important, and some of the little traps we fall into when trying to express empathy. This is applicable not just for your coaching relationships, but for all your relationships. First, what is empathy? Empathy is the respectful understanding of another person's experience, including his or her feelings, needs, and desires. And through the respectful and appreciative understanding of a client's experiences, the coach supports the client in expanding his or her awareness, creating openness, trust, and ultimately facilitating change. All coaching relationships must begin with the premise that change is facilitated by a calm, safe, judgment-free space. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of being in a conversation with someone where you felt very judged for the experience you're having. How did that feel? Not very good. Did it build trust or break trust? It probably was breaking trust. The more a client feels stuck, the more important it is for coaches to express empathy. And it sometimes is challenging in the face of health risk behaviors. Have you ever had the experience of watching someone destroy their health, knowing that they could be doing it differently, knowing that they have other options and they're not following through on them? When coaches find it difficult to give empathy, particularly with, let's say, a repeating pattern that we're seeing with a client or with someone in our lives where we really want them to be different, or to notice that we might have difficulty giving empathy with negative emotion. I've had clients and students tell me, I don't know how to be with this negative emotion. Well, sometimes when that happens and it's difficult for us to give empathy, it probably means that we're not receiving enough empathy in our own lives. For example, I had a coach tell me recently she was using one of our mastery coaching sequences that we teach at our HCI Live event. I'll tell you about that later. Mastery is our 12-month graduate program teaching some of the deepest coaching skills in the transformation industry. And this student was working with a client, going deep, and uncovered with the client a traumatic experience she had when she was a young girl. And the client started sobbing, just like wailing, just like, just really, really, and feeling the pain of a past event. The student coach suddenly froze, feeling like a deer in headlights, like, she wanted to run away. Her client's vulnerability made her feel startled, flustered, nervous, and unsteady how to proceed. Have you ever had that experience? Go ahead and put in the comments if you've had the experience in a coaching session of feeling like a deer in headlights when the client expresses a very big emotion, maybe a negative emotion like sobbing, crying, whimpering, or even anger. Go ahead and put in the comments if you've ever had that experience, and what was the expression that was making you uncomfortable or making you unsure, unsteady how to proceed. Let's go ahead and see what some of those are. Yes, I see that some of you have had that experience. Yeah, so what are some of the emotions that are difficult to be with? Anger, sadness, great. Yeah, like intense pain or frustration or experience previous traumas, wonderful. These are really great. So here's one of the most important teachings I can give you today about empathy. You ready? You must connect with your own feelings and needs in order to grow your empathy muscles. Like, oh yeah. The more you get in touch with your feelings and needs, the more you will be able to be an empathic presence for your clients without getting flustered or swallowed in the undertow of someone else's emotions. The more you are an empathic presence, the more transformational your coaching will be. So, how do you get in touch with your feelings and needs? So let's do an exercise. Consider a place in your life right now where some need or desire is not being met. And go ahead and put that in the comments. Some place in your life right now where some need or desire is not being met. Perhaps it's with your self-care, your health, or with your spouse or a friend. Some place where you have an unmet need, and see if you can get specific. So don't just say with my health. Get more specific. What is it about your health? Don't just say like, oh, self-care. What specifically? Is it movement? Is it sleep? Is it getting a massage? Be specific about something that you need or desire for your well-being, your mental, physical, emotional well-being right now. And let's see, do we have any? Okay, so go ahead and put those in the chat. What is your unmet need or desire? And I can tell by some people are hesitating because we're not used to tuning into our needs or desires. It's like we're always so caring for everyone else, but there's an avoidance in that. So this is the challenge. If you want to be an empathic presence and have more authentic relating with your clients, or if you aspire to become a masterful coach who does deep transformational work, then this is the starting place, because you've got to build, remember, those empathy muscles. You've got to build those empathy muscles, and that means that it starts with you, of being comfortable with your own emotions. And the first step here is identifying your unmet needs or desires currently in your life. So right now, I am experiencing too much to do and too little time. And probably what I need is to simplify my tasks, to reprioritize, to notice what is actually really, really important to get done and let go of the other things not getting done. So now let's identify the feelings that go along with that unmet need versus when that need is met. When I have too much to do and too little time, I feel tense, overwhelmed, and contracted. You saw me pull back there. It's like, ugh, right? It's all moving too fast, and I feel like I'm in a canoe about to go over the waterfall, and I can't backpedal fast enough. It's just happening. It almost feels like it's happening to me, right? Out of control. Let's look at now, those are the feelings when the need is unmet. And on the other hand, now we can identify the feelings that go with that need being met. So when that need is met, let's say I've got the right priorities and I've let go of the things that I'm not going to get done, I've let them go and I feel at peace, well, then I feel at ease, carefree, open, inspired. So identify the unmet need you have, then the feelings that go along with that need not being met, then identify the feelings that go along when that need is met. As you start to see that a lot of negative emotions are simply unmet needs wanting to be expressed. And as you notice that, you start to get more comfortable with the feelings that go along with those unmet needs, right? There's a call There's a calling forth. It's like, okay, well, there are negative emotions here, but there's a calling forth to be understood or to make change. This practice of identifying your unmet needs and the associated emotions starts to build self-empathy. The more self-empathy you build, the more mutual empathy you will be able to offer in your coaching. A key to the importance of empathy can be found in the work of Brené Brown. Who's a Brené Brown fan? Put BB in the chat. Yeah, Brené Brown, love her. She's a research professor at the University of Houston whose work focuses on the topics of vulnerability, courage, worthiness, and shame. You know, just the light topics. And Brené Brown defines shame as the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. Empathy, Brown notes, is the antidote to shame. So when a client comes to you and maybe they haven't been following through on their action steps, they're likely experiencing some form of shame, even if it's just mild embarrassment. Feeling and expressing empathy is critical to helping the other person diffuse their shame, their embarrassment, and start to open up to creatively thinking about solutions or thinking about change or approaching the change. But we don't tend to go towards productive action or lasting action if we haven't identified the emotions that go along with it. But here's a little pitfall that happens, a little trap. Our habitual expressions of empathy can sometimes be counterproductive. So let's talk about the pitfalls I see aspiring coaches make with empathy. Coaches sometimes confuse empathy with pity and sympathy. Empathy is not about feeling sorry for someone. It's about understanding and respecting where someone is coming from. It's about giving voice to what someone is feeling, needing, and desiring. So there's three traps that, at least that I thought of in this moment, that we fall into when trying to express empathy. So see if you identify with any of these traps. And you might have even been aware of it in the coaching moment or with a friend or a family member. Because remember, this is applicable not just to coaching relationships, but to all of your interactions and relationships. And there's these three traps that we fall into when trying to express empathy. And I've done all three of these, so there's no shame here. I'm outing myself. This is exactly how I identified these, is because I found myself doing them in the moment and then cringing, but not being able to backpedal out of it. It was just like, oh no, it's coming out of my mouth. So here's the three pitfalls. Number one, we compare our issues to the other person's. So it kind of ends up being a little, well, my problem's bigger than yours. Number two, we try to be overly positive too soon. So we'll say something like, look on the bright side. Or number three, we leap to problem solving while ignoring what the person is feeling in the moment. It's like we jump too quick to strategy, and you've got to separate emotion from strategy. That's a ninja coaching technique. More to come later on that. But let's put these three pitfalls into a coaching context. Let's say I'm coaching someone called Julie, and Julie says, my boss yelled at me today. I made a bad mistake on a big project. I think I'm gonna get fired. I love my job and now I'm gonna lose it. I don't know how I'm gonna pay my bills, let alone continue our coaching, which I desperately need because my adrenals are shot. I'm not sleeping. I'm freaking out. Here is me responding with the first pitfall, comparison. You think you have it bad. My husband lost his job. I've got 4 kids in college at the same time, and my mother just had a hip replacement and needs round-the-clock care. On top of it, a tree just fell on our roof and my car won't start. right? Does that sound appropriate? Or like it's going to facilitate change? Sometimes we do that comparison to try to have the client feel understood, but it doesn't quite work. It actually has them feel shut down and almost invalidated because it becomes about you and not about them. I've totally been there and done that one. Here is me responding with pitfall number 2, being overly positive. So Julie's boss is freaking out, gonna get fired. And I say, Julie, I'm sure this is the best thing that ever happened to you. Look on the bright side. Everything happens for a reason. Yeah, it's not gonna have Julie really feel understood, right? Now here's me leaping to problem solving while ignoring what she's feeling in the moment. Julie, why don't you just tell your boss you're sorry and fix the mistake? If we jump too quickly to strategizing or problem solving or getting tactical, the client will likely defend or protest, and no matter what solution you offer, even if it's a really good solution, they'll likely become unhelpable. So no matter what you say, there'll be a reason why it won't work. And as you continue to do that, you downgrade trust. All not because the strategies were wrong, but because we were ignoring how she felt in the moment, and that needed to get processed first. Now let's hear how it might sound with Julie when practicing empathy. It does sound like a challenging situation. I hear how worried you are and how much you care about your work and that you want to keep your positive momentum going with your health. Does that sound right? So what did you notice is different when the coach is comparing issues, being overly positive, or strategizing too soon versus this last part of what it sounded like with empathy? What did you notice is different? Go ahead and put that in the chat. And notice, how would you feel on the receiving end of those 3 pitfalls versus the empathy approach? How might you feel? Yeah, Emily says she feels heard and validated versus shut down. And Valerie saying, oh yeah, I've been there, done that for sure. Teresa, validated, space. But it's interesting because we could also make a distinction between having a client feel validated versus enabled. So that's maybe a lesson for another day, but this piece of just feeling validated in their experience. We're not evaluating whether or not Julie did make a mistake at work, whether it's fixable, whether the boss was right or wrong to yell. It doesn't matter. Right now is that Julie had an experience and is fearful or worried or anxious, and that's all we're validating, is that yes, she had an experience and this was her response to the experience. Alexa says you made her feel like you were right there with her. Great, excellent. Valerie says calm. And then Tamara says empathy gives them space to go deeper into their emotions. Adriana says it felt much more calming and that someone was there for me. Yep, great. Teresa says being a witness to Julie. Yes, excellent, wonderful. So empathic presence, or the role of empathy in coaching, it really starts with an awareness of your own emotions and being comfortable with them, of offering yourself self-empathy before you can do mutual empathy or offer empathy to a client. And then it doesn't seem so scary. And it's such a powerful tool. So if you want to become a masterful coach, start with you. Remember, you can only take your clients as far as you yourself are willing to go. So go ahead and put in the chat something that you are taking away from this Real Talk. What has been impactful for you, something that you learned or was new for you? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Alina says listening with respect. Crystal says listening is important. Yep, and I see Heidi saying it reflected authenticity. Excellent. So if you are already a coach or studying to become a coach and want to deepen your coaching skills, then I want to invite you to a very special event. It's called HCI Live. That's Health Coach Institute Live. It's our 3-day live event held twice a year to get off your computer and come in a room together, various locations across the United States, to teach you masterful coaching skills that build trust, go deep, and create extraordinary results for both you and your clients. If you want to learn more about that 3-day immersive live event, go to hcilive.com to reserve your seat. Or if you're not yet a coach, but you're intrigued and want to learn more about how you can become a coach and learn these kinds of skills to improve all your relations, there are people from all walks of life who study coaching for leadership skills, for communication skills, or to actually become a coach so that you can first transform yourself and then learn the skills to assist others in their transformation. So if you're not yet a coach but intrigued, you want to learn more, attend one of our free upcoming workshops. These are online workshops you can attend from anywhere in the world, where we reveal more secrets to masterful coaching and designing a life that really makes you come alive. So if that's you, go to healthcoachinstitute.com and sign up for one of our upcoming workshops. And I can't wait for more. See you next time. This is Real Talk, and I'm Stacey Morgenstern. Bye, everyone. If you like this video, share it, like it, tag someone you know, and I'll see you next week.